My key won't turn in the lock. I jiggle it, twist harder, but the familiar click doesn't come. Standing on my childhood porch, suitcase at my feet, and 3 boxes stacked beside me, I frown at the stubborn door. Dad always kept this lock well oiled. I try again, shoulder pressing against the door. Nothing. Weird. Mom knew I was coming home today. After 6 years away, college, grad school, internship, I'm finally back to claim my inheritance, to live in the house Dad left me when he died. The house where Mom and Greg and my stepbrother Josh have been living, keeping it up for me while I was gone. The door suddenly swings inward. Greg stands there, his 6-foot frame blocking the entrance. He's wearing a faded Patriots t-shirt and jeans, casual for a Wednesday afternoon. His eyes widen, genuine surprise flickering across his face before he masks it. "Rachel, we weren't expecting you until next week." His voice is pitched too high, smile too tight. "I told Mom I'd be here today. We spoke last week." I keep my tone light, but something cold settles in my stomach. Right. Memory's not what it used to be." He steps back, reluctantly allowing me space to enter. "Come in." I step into a house I don't recognize. The entryway that once held Dad's antique hall tree now features a sleek console table I've never seen before. The warm gold walls are now stark white, Dad's collection of nautical prints gone. In their place hang modern abstract canvases in shades of gray and black. My suitcase slips from my fingers, thudding against the hardwood. "You've redecorated." The words feel inadequate in my mouth. Greg runs a hand through his thinning hair. "Deborah wanted to freshen things up a bit. You know how she is." "I don't, actually. My mother never cared about interior design when Dad was alive." "Where's Mom?" I ask, still frozen in the entryway. "Shopping. Should be back soon." Greg glances at my luggage. "You know, Rachel, you might want to look at apartments soon. The rental market here is pretty competitive these days." I stare at him. "Apartments?" "Sure. Young professional like yourself, you'll want your own space." He gestures vaguely. "Independence and all that." The implication hits me like ice water. He doesn't expect me to stay. In my own house. Before I can respond, the front door opens. Mom bustles in with grocery bags, her blonde hair shorter than I remember, more highlighted. She stops when she sees me, eyes darting nervously between me and Greg. "Rachel, you're here already." She sets the bags down and gives me a quick hug that feels hollow. "We were just talking about you this morning, weren't we, Greg?" Greg nods, not meeting my eyes. "I was saying how Rachel might want to look at apartments." Mom's smile falters. "Well, no rush on that. You can stay in the guest room for now." "The guest room. Not my room." "Where are my things?" I ask. "From my bedroom?" Mom's gaze shifts away. "We boxed up some things in the attic. Josh needed more space as he got older, so we gave him your room. It made sense, since you were away at college." Something inside me cracks. "And Dad's study?" The nervous glance between them tells me everything before Mom speaks. "That's Josh's bedroom now. He's 15, he needed his privacy." "Your father's been gone 6 years, Rachel." 6 years. I was 18, standing next to his casket, when the lawyer handed me the deed to this house. Dad had left it to May, his only child, his daughter. The house he'd built with his own hands. "Mom," I say carefully, "could I see Dad's study, Josh's room?" Mom's hands flutter nervously. "It's completely different now. Nothing like you remember." I still want to see it. I walk through the transformed living room, past the kitchen with its new granite countertops, and down the hallway. The door to Dad's study stands closed. I take a breath and push it open. Basketball posters cover the walls. A twin bed with rumpled navy bedding sits where Dad's desk once stood. A gaming setup occupies the corner that held his bookshelves. The bay window where he used to read remains, but heavy blinds now block the garden view he loved. Nothing remains of him. Not a single trace. I stand motionless, absorbing the erasure of my father from his own home. The home he left to me. I remember his funeral, the weight of the house deed in my hand, the responsibility it represented. "It's just for a while," Mom had said back then. "Just until you finish college. We'll keep up the house for you." I trusted her. Trusted them. Over the years, I'd noticed small changes during holiday visits. Family photos disappearing. Dad's books vanishing from shelves. Greg subtly asserting ownership and comments about our house and our renovations. But I dismissed my unease, focusing on studies, on building my future. I turn and find Mom watching me from the doorway, her hands twisting together. "Rachel, we should talk." Yes, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. We should. In the kitchen, Mom sits across from me, eyes avoiding mine. Greg has conveniently disappeared. What's going on, I ask. Why does Greg think I should get an apartment instead of living in my house? Mom flinches at my house. Greg believes, that is, we thought. She takes a shaky breath. Greg thinks the house belongs to us now. The world stops. The house Dad left to me in his will, the one I have the deed to? He says after 6 years of us living here, paying utilities, making improvements, she trails off. You knew, I whisper, the betrayal crushing my chest. You knew it was still legally mine, and you let him believe what? That you could take it from me? I didn't know what to do, she admits, tears forming. Greg was so insistent, and you were gone, building your life. It just seemed easier to lie? For 6 years? My voice rises despite my efforts to contain it. To erase Dad from his own home? To let me believe everything was fine while you plotted to take my inheritance? The tears spill down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Rachel. But sorry can't rebuild 6 years of deception. Sorry can't erase the choice she made every day to betray me, her own daughter. What would you do if you discovered your own family had been plotting to steal your inheritance for years? Would you forgive them, or would you fight back? My decision will change everything. The attic door creaks as I push it open. Dust motes dance in the beam of my flashlight, swirling through stale air that hasn't circulated in years. I step carefully across the unfinished plywood, testing each board before putting my full weight down. Dad? I whisper to the darkness, as if he might answer. My light catches on a stack of cardboard boxes pressed against the far wall. Each bears a label in Mom's neat handwriting. Thomas, books, Thomas Navy, Thomas, photos. A family archive tucked away like shameful secrets. I kneel beside the nearest box and lift the lid. Dad's leather-bound copy of Moby Dick sits on top, the one he read aloud to me every summer at the beach house. Beneath it, dozens more volumes, spines cracked from use, pages dog-eared at his favorite passages. I press the book to my chest, inhaling the faint scent of his pipe tobacco that still clings to the pages. 3 boxes down, I find what I'm looking for, a battered metal filing cabinet drawer that used to sit in Dad's desk. I slide it open and rifle through the hanging folders until I find one marked house. Inside, the original deed with my name on it. Property tax records. And a stack of mail addressed to me, college alumni newsletters, credit card offers, voter registration confirmation spanning the last 6 years. All opened, all hidden away. Beneath these, a folder labeled Utilities catches my eye. I flip it open to find 6 years of electric bills, water bills, property tax statements, all in Greg's name. Methodical documentation establishing his residency, his claim to my home. My fingers tremble as I sort through the evidence of their deception. They'd been intercepting my mail, establishing Greg's residency, systematically erasing Dad while setting up a legal claim to adverse possession. Oh my God, I breathe, the weight of the betrayal pressing against my ribs like a physical pain. A floorboard creaks behind me. What are you doing up here? Josh stands in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder, his lanky frame silhouetted against the hall light. I straighten, letters still clutched in my hand, going through my father's things. His eyebrows pull together. Mom said not to mess with that stuff. I bet she did. I meet his gaze directly. Josh, did you know this house belongs to me? Legally? He shifts his weight, confusion flickering across his face. What are you talking about? This is our house. We've lived here since I was 9. Because my dad left it to me when he died, and I let Mom and Greg stay here while I was at college. I keep my voice calm despite the tremor in my hands. They were supposed to be taking care of it for me until I came back. Josh's face hardens. That's not true. Dad bought this house. Is that what he told you? We fixed it up. We've paid the bills for years. His voice cracks slightly. My room was my dad's study. I finish for him. The study in the house he built with his own hands, that he left to his only daughter. Josh backs away, shaking his head. You're lying. His rejection stings more than I expected. During holiday visits, I'd helped him with math homework, brought him souvenirs from my travels, tried to be the big sister he never had. Now I'm a threat to everything he believes about his home. I have the deed, Josh, and his will. I hold up the papers. I'm not lying, they are. He turns and thunders down the stairs, calling for his father. Minutes later, I hear his bedroom door slam, music blasting through the wall sangry. pulsing beats that vibrate through the floor. The universal language of teenage resentment. My phone vibrates as I descend the stairs. Megan's name flashes on the screen, me college roommate, now working at an accounting firm downtown. Rachel, I just got your text. Are you okay? I duck into what used to be the guest room, now my temporary space, and close the door. Not really. My voice drops to a whisper. The situation is worse than I thought. They've been plotting to take the house for years. Jesus. She pauses. Listen, my apartment has a spare bedroom. It's yours if you need it. Relief washes through me. Thanks, Meg. I might take you up on that while I sort this out. For how long? Until I get my house back. The determination in my voice surprises even me. After hanging up, I call my new boss at Mitchell Financial. I've only been there 3 days, but Douglas had been Dad's friend before he became my employer. Rachel, he answers warmly. Everything all right with the move-in? Actually, no. I explain the situation in clipped professional terms. A long silence follows. Then, take whatever time you need this week. Work remotely when you can. Your father would want me to help. Another ally. I add his name to my growing list. It's called adverse possession. Greg explains the next evening, leaning back in what used to be Dad's chair at the dining table. We've maintained continuous residency for over 5 years, paid all the utilities, made improvements to the property. While hiding my mail and pretending everything was fine, my voice stays measured even as rage simmers beneath. That's mail fraud, Greg. A federal offense. He waves a dismissive hand. You're being dramatic. We were just keeping things organized until you settled down. By erasing my father from his own home? By moving your son into his study? I place phone on the table, recording app running. Tell me more about how that was for my benefit. Mom reaches across the table, tears brimming in her eyes. Rachel, please, we're family. Everything we've done has been to provide stability for all of us, including you. Family doesn't do this. I slide a business card across the table. I spoke with Kenneth Bryant today. Dad's old friend from law school, remember? He says adverse possession claims require good faith belief in ownership. Your deliberate deception proves bad faith. Greg's face flushes. You went behind our backs to a lawyer? I'm protecting what's mine. I meet his gaze steadily. Kenneth also mentioned that Shannon Miller next door has been concerned for years about how quickly you removed all traces of Dad after he died. She's happy to provide a statement. The mask slips. Greg's eyes narrow, his mouth twisting with contempt. You ungrateful little. Greg, my mother cuts him off, then turns to me, her voice softening to that pleading tone I've always hated. Rachel, honey, think about what you're doing. We're the only family you have left. Would your father want you to tear us apart like this? The emotional manipulation is so transparent it almost makes me laugh. Don't you dare invoke Dad's wishes when you've spent 6 years erasing him from this house. Josh appears in the doorway, eyes red-rimmed, arms crossed defensively over his chest. So what happens to me? Do you even care? I meet his gaze. This isn't about you, Josh. It's my home too. His voice breaks. You show up after years of being gone and suddenly we're supposed to just leave because of some paper? Not just some paper. The law. I stand, gathering the documentation I've spread across the table. You have 1 week to find a new place. I've already verified the will with the county clerk and confirmed my legal standing. The locks change on Friday. You can't just throw us out, Mom cries. Where will we go? The question catches in my chest a barb of guilt amid the righteousness. But I think of Dad's books packed away in the attic, of the opened mail, of 6 years of calculated deception. You've had 6 years to prepare for this day, Mom. I'm sure Greg has a plan. His silence tells me everything. I walk out, my heart hammering against my ribs, but my steps steady. For the first time since coming home, I feel something like power returning. Dad always said that people who take what isn't theirs count on you being too polite to demand it back. I'm done being polite. Have you ever discovered someone close to you had been lying for years? How did you handle the betrayal? Rachel's about to show exactly how to take back your power. Greg's text comes at 7 a.m. Family meeting, kitchen, 8 p.m. tonight. I place my phone face down on the hotel desk and continue typing up my eviction timeline. The audacity summoning me to a family meeting in my own house. The house where I'm currently not welcome to sleep. The locksmith arrives at 9 a.m. sharp. All exterior doors, he confirms, equipment bag slung over his shoulder. Yes, I say. And I'll need 6 sets of keys. He raises an eyebrow but asks no questions. I like that. While he works, I drive to the county clerk's office with a folder of documents. My father's will, the property deed, my identification. The clerk, a woman with silver-streaked hair and efficient movements, verifies everything methodically. Property taxes are current, she notes, looking up. But utility accounts are being transferred today. I finish. Each item on my list gets checked off with purpose. By afternoon, I'm meeting with my father's old lawyer, Derek, in his downtown office. He slides the eviction notices across his desk. This gives them exactly 1 week, he explains. The law allows for longer, but given the circumstances. I sign where indicated. 1 week is generous. Something unwinds in my chest with each signature. The tightness that's lived there since I tried my key in the lock loosens just a fraction. At 8 p.m., I walk into what used to be my kitchen. Greg sits at the head of the table me father's place. Mom's eyes are already red-rimmed. Josh slouches against the counter, glaring. Sit down, Rachel, Greg says, using his boardroom voice. I remain standing. This won't take long. This, Mom sniffles, is about family. Is it? I place my leather portfolio on the table. Because family doesn't conspire to steal from each other. Josh pushes off from the counter. You're destroying everything. This is my home. No, Josh, it's not. I keep my voice level. And that's not your fault, but it is the reality. Greg leans forward, elbows on the table. Rachel, be reasonable. We've lived here for 6 years. We've put money into improvements, under adverse possession, which requires the true owner to be unaware of the occupation. I cut him off, sliding the first document across the table. I visited. We exchanged emails about the house. I have proof I was aware of and permitted your residence here. Your adverse possession claim would never stand. His face flushes deep red. And here, I continue, placing down the second document, is the eviction notice. You have 1 week. Mom gasps. 1 week. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my concern. The words taste metallic, necessary. You've had 6 years to prepare for this day. Greg stands abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. You ungrateful little. I wouldn't. I meet his gaze. The property is now under surveillance. Any damage, any items removed that aren't personal belongings, will result in additional legal action. The mask slips. In his eyes, I see the calculation, the fury of a man whose scheme is collapsing. You'll regret this, he hisses. I nod once. Probably, but I'll regret it in my house. The next morning, Allison from work arrives with coffee and determination. Where do we start, she asks, surveying the living room. I hadn't expected this colleagues I've known for barely 3 weeks showing up with moving boxes and cleaning supplies. Behind Allison, Mark and Jen unload more supplies from Mark's truck. Dad's study, I answer. We start there. Josh's belongings have already been cleared out, relocated to the basement, I assume. The walls are bare except for tack marks where posters hung. The blinds still block my father's favorite garden view. As we work, removing the blinds and cleaning years of teenage existence from the space, there's a knock at the door. Mr. Winters, our neighbor for 20 years, stands on the porch. In his weathered hands, he holds garden tools my father's. Thought you might want these back, he says. Tom asked me to keep an eye on them while they were gardening. The air quotes are audible. Never saw much gardening happen, though. I run my fingers over the worn wooden handles. Thank you. Your dad was a good man. Mr. Winters nods firmly. Built this place right. Made it to last. Something about his simple acknowledgement of my father, the first I've heard since returning breaks, through my carefully maintained composure. My eyes burn. Would you like to come in for coffee? I ask. His stories about Dad last through 2 cups. Each one rebuilds something inside me that's been crumbling for 6 years. By early evening, Greg returns. I'm in Dad's study, now hanging the nautical prints that Mr. Winters had also kept an eye on for me. This is ridiculous. Greg announces from the doorway. You can't just... I can and I am. I tap the nail into place and hang the third print of Schooner under full sail. I've spoken to my lawyer. His voice holds less conviction than this morning. I turn slowly. Good. Then he'll have explained exactly how solid my position is, and how your attempted adverse possession could be viewed as fraud. He flinches. Where's Mom? I ask. As if summoned, she appears behind him, eyes fixed on the study's transformation. You found the pictures, she whispers. Mr. Winters saved them, along with Dad's tools. I straighten a frame. Why, Mom? Why did you let this happen? She steps into the room, her fingers twisting together that nervous habit I've seen my whole life. It was easier. After Tom died, everything was so hard. Greg said he'd handle everything. And then one change led to another, and soon it seemed impossible to go back. The truth is so mundane, so human. No grand conspiracy, just weakness and convenience. Josh appears in the hallway, watching silently. "I'm sorry, Rachel," Mom says, and for the first time since I arrived, I believe her. "I just wanted things to be easy." "Well, they're not easy now," I reply. "1 week, Mom. Find a place." That night, after they've gone out to look at apartments, I assume I tour my reclaimed space. Dad's old banker box of photos sits on the dining room table. One by one, I restore them to walls and shelves. Here's Dad teaching me to fish. Here we are building a bookshelf together. Mom and Dad on their 15th anniversary. I place the last photo Dad in this very study, surrounded by his books in the desk. It's almost midnight when I finally collapse onto my childhood bed, still covered in guest room linens, but mine again. For the first time in 6 years, I sleep in my true home. But just as Rachel thought the battle was won, she discovered something that would make Greg's betrayal even more sinister. What hidden evidence would turn this family drama into an all-out war? The camera shutter clicks as I document the chipped baseboard in what used to be my father's study. Evidence. Each photograph catalogs what they've done to my home. "Don't miss the water damage in the corner," calls Elaine, my father's former colleague and now my lawyer. Her heels click against the hardwood as she marks items on her clipboard. "Document everything before they're out." Already got it. I adjust the camera settings for better lighting. Through the viewfinder, I capture Josh's basketball posters. The adhesive that's damaged the carefully painted walls beneath. Dad would hate seeing his craftsmanship disrespected this way. The professional cleaners arrive at exactly 8 a.m. I scheduled them deliberately early enough that Greg can't interfere, late enough that it's perfectly reasonable. The team leader, a woman with efficiently pulled back hair, hands me a detailed contract. "We'll have everything sanitized and restored within 48 hours, she says. "Just in time for your official move-in date." I sign the paperwork, another calculated move. Every decision now carries equal weight, creates a paper trail. Elaine nods approvingly. "The formal communications went out yesterday," she says, her voice low. "The property boundaries are clearly established, and any further claims will be met with immediate legal action." Good. My voice sounds stronger than I feel. A crash from the kitchen interrupts us. I rush down the hallway to find Greg attempting to remove the high-end faucet he installed last year. "What are you doing?" I keep my voice level despite the fury boiling inside me. "These fixtures are mine," he grunts, wrench still gripped in his hand. "I paid for them." "Those fixtures are attached to the property," Elaine says from behind me, her lawyer voice in full effect. "Remove them, and it's damage to the premises." Greg's face flushes dark red. He drops the wrench with a clatter, stalking past us without a word. Later that afternoon, my phone pings with notifications. Social media alerts. Josh has posted a carefully angled selfie in his room, caption reading, "Last night in my childhood home because my greedy stepsister is kicking us out. Real family doesn't do this to each other." I should feel hurt. Instead, I screenshot it for Elaine. Another notification appears, a message from Mrs. Keller, our next-door neighbor for 15 years. "Rachel, I just had a disturbing conversation with your stepfather. He came over asking if I would sign a statement about their improvements to the house. When I asked questions, his story kept changing. Just wanted you to know I'm on your side." My phone buzzes again. A community group text from my mother. "Please keep our family in your thoughts as we navigate an unexpected housing change. Some of you have asked how you can help us during this difficult time." I set my phone down, refusing to engage. The professional cleaner catches my eye, raising an eyebrow at the sound of my continued notifications. "Family drama," I explain simply. "We see it all the time," she replies, voice neutral. "Especially in inheritance situations." By evening, 3 of my colleagues from the financial firm arrive with takeout and determination. Marisol starts unboxing my kitchen supplies, while David and Kim hang my father's nautical prints back in their rightful places. "My aunt went through something similar," says Marisol, carefully arranging glasses in the cabinet. "Her brother tried claiming their mother's house after caring for her. The courts shut that down fast. The neighbors keep stopping by," Kim adds, straightening a frame. "That older gentleman brought over what he said were your dad's garden tools, said he'd been safe keeping them. Mr. Reeves, Dad's best friend." My throat tightens. Everyone's being incredibly supportive. David says, unpacking books. You know what that means, right? They knew what was happening wasn't right. My phone rings, Josh's name flashing on the screen. I silence it. Not ready for that conversation yet. From the window, I spot Greg and my mother arguing in their packed car. I can't hear the words, but their gestures tell enough. Her head is in her hands. His face is tight with fury. Even from this distance, I can see the cracks forming in their united front. The phone buzzes again. A text from Josh. Did Dad really try to sell the house? Is that true? Another message arrives before I can respond. This one from my mother. I'm so sorry, Rachel. I never should have let this happen. Can we talk? Just us? I set the phone down without replying. Through the front window, I watch their car finally pull away. Greg's angry profile visible through the windshield, my mother's silhouette slumped beside him. My house keys feel solid in my palm, new keys for new locks. When I discovered what Greg had been planning for my father's home, I knew there was no going back. The final confrontation would change everything. I closed the curtains and turned back to my friends, my new family, who continue restoring my father's memory to these walls. The doorbell rings at exactly 10:17 a.m. I've been expecting this. Through the window, I spot Greg's silver Audi in my driveway. Deborah slumped in the passenger seat, face angled away from the house. Josh stands awkwardly beside Greg on my porch, hands shoved deep in the pockets of his oversized hoodie, shoulders hunched. I take a steadying breath, my father's watch heavy on my wrist, and open the door. Rachel. Greg forces a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. We've come to pick up a few things. I wasn't expecting you until this afternoon. I block the doorway, one hand still on the knob. Plans changed. He gestures to the house behind me. We won't take long. There are just some items that belong to us. I noticed the rental truck parked across the street. Not just a few things then. What items specifically? My voice stays calm, controlled. I've prepared for this moment for days. Greg's smile tightens. The dining room set, for one. Deborah's grandmother's, and the antique mirror in the hallway. My father's mirror? The one he restored himself? I raise an eyebrow. And the dining set he built for his and Mom's 5th anniversary? Josh looks up sharply, confusion crossing his face. Deborah remembers it differently, Greg says, shifting his weight. I'm sure she does. I step back, allowing them entry. Come in, let's discuss this properly. They follow me to the living room, Josh trailing behind, eyes darting around the transformed space. I've spent the past week restoring my father's presents, photographs back on the walls, his books returned to shelves, his favorite chair angled toward the window as it always was. I have something to show you, I say, retrieving a folder from the side table. Greg remains standing, arms crossed. We don't need paperwork, Rachel. We just need to get our things and go. Actually, you do need to see this. I extract a document, handing it to him. This is my father's will, specifying every item of significance in this house, including the dining set and hallway mirror. Both specifically left to me. His eyes narrow as he scans the page. This doesn't... And this, I continue, extracting another document, is the appraisal of those items from when my father died. And this, another paper, is the insurance coverage specifying them as heirlooms protected under my policy. Josh steps closer, peering at the documents in Greg's hands. Dad? His voice carries an edge of uncertainty I've never heard before. Greg ignores him. This doesn't change anything. We've maintained these items for years. Maintained them while living rent, free in my home, I remind him. And there's something else you should know. I walk to the small security camera mounted in the corner of the living room. I've installed these throughout the house, including one in my father's study that recorded you last week, searching through the remaining documents in his desk. The color drains from Greg's face. I also have copies of the emails you sent to Riverdale Realty 3 months ago, I say, pulling out printed emails with his name clearly visible. The ones discussing selling this house, my house, after I agreed to the arrangement you were planning to propose. Josh's head snaps toward his father. You were going to sell the house? You said we were just moving to something smaller because... Josh, wait in the car. Greg's voice cuts like steel. Number. Josh steps away from him. You told me Rachel was being selfish, that she was trying to kick us out after we'd taken care of her house for years. That's what he needed you to believe, I tell Josh gently, just like he needed Mom to believe she was doing what was best for everyone. The front door opens, and Deborah finally appears, eyes red-rimmed, arms wrapped around herself. She looks smaller somehow, diminished. Greg, please, let's just go, she says, not meeting my eyes. We're not leaving without what's ours. Greg insists, but his voice has lost its conviction. Nothing here is yours, I say firmly, and I think you need to leave now. You ungrateful little. He steps toward me, finger pointed. Don't. Deborah's hand catches his arm. She's right, it's over, Greg. His head whips toward her, disbelief etched across his face. What did you say? I said it's over. Her voice strengthened slightly. I never should have let this happen. Rachel's right about everything. Mom. I start, surprised by her intervention. Greg jerks away from her touch. After everything I've done for you, for that ungrateful son of yours? Josh flinches as if struck. For us? Deborah's laugh holds no humor. You were planning to sell Rachel's home out from under all of us. Where exactly did you think we'd go with that money, Greg? The silence that follows her question tells us everything. Get out, I say quietly, power settling into my bones. All of your belongings were moved to the garage yesterday. Take them and leave. Greg's face contorts with fury, but faced with 3 pairs of eyes mind steady. Deborah's resigned. Josh is betrayed, he finds no leverage. This isn't over, he spits, storming toward the door. It is for me, I reply. Deborah lingers, tears streaming silently down her face. Rachel, I'm so sorry for everything. I don't answer. 6 years of betrayal can't be erased with a single apology. She follows Greg out, shoulders bent under the weight of her choices. Josh stands frozen in the middle of my living room, caught between worlds. I didn't know, he says finally, about any of it. I believe you, I tell him, because I do. But that doesn't change what happens now. He nods, understanding but not accepting, and turns to go. At the doorway, he pauses. Would it be okay if I texted you sometime? The question hangs between us, complicated and raw. Through the window, I watch Greg throwing boxes into the rental truck, Deborah standing helplessly beside the car. I don't know yet, I answer honestly. Josh nods again and walks out, the door closing softly behind him. I stand in the entryway of my father's house, me house breathing, in the quiet that follows their departure. For the first time in 6 years, I feel the foundation solid beneath my feet. The walls truly mine. The inheritance my father left me, not just the structure, but the strength to reclaim it settles around me like a protective embrace. I turn the deadbolt with a satisfying click. 2 months have passed, and I can finally breathe inside these walls again. The smell of lemon oil permeates the air as I polish the oak banister Dad crafted by hand 20 years ago. Natural light pours through uncovered windows, illuminating corners that Greg had kept perpetually shadowed. I've stripped away the cold white paint, restoring the warm gold that Dad always said makes a house feel like someone's waiting up for you. Every weekend since they left has been dedicated to resurrection, not renovation. There's a difference. One erases, one remembers. In Dad's Study Me Study, Noah's nautical prints hang exactly where they used to. The glass newly polished, but the frames bearing the same small nick from when I threw a baseball indoors at age 7. His leather chair sits by the bay window, rest-stitched where it had cracked from neglect in the attic. When I sit there, reading with evening light falling across the pages, I sometimes feel the weight of his hand on my shoulder. The doorbell chimes, pulling me from my thoughts. Just let yourself in, I call, arranging a final cluster of hydrangeas in the dining room centerpiece. Voices fill the entryway, May from the financial firm, Davis from next door, and Sarah, my college roommate, who drove 2 hours to be here tonight. The same dining room where Greg once suggested I find an apartment now hums with genuine laughter. This place is transformed, May says, handing me a bottle of wine. It's like a completely different house from when I helped you move in. Same bones, different heart, I reply, leading them through to the dining room. We settle around the table beneath the watchful gaze of Dad's portrait that now hangs on the wall. His eyes seem to crinkle with approval as I pour wine into glasses that I found wrapped in newspaper in the attic, the same ones Mom and Dad received as wedding gifts. To new beginnings, Davis toasts, his glass catching the light. The conversation flows naturally, none of the strained politeness that characterized Greg's domain. I relax into my chair at the head of the table, Dad's old spitand, allow myself to enjoy the warmth of connection without obligation. Later, after everyone is gone, I sit on the porch swing with a cup of tea, watching fireflies rise from the garden I've coaxed back to life. Dad's rose bushes are blooming again after years of neglect. Like me, they just needed someone to care. My phone chimes with a text notification. Josh's name appears on the screen. Can we talk sometime? When you're ready, no pressure. I don't respond immediately. Dr. Levine, my therapist, has helped me understand that healing doesn't require immediate forgiveness. That boundaries aren't just walls but foundations. 3 unopened letters from Mom sit in my desk drawer. I'm not ready yet, but not ready isn't the same as never. The neighbor across the street waves as she walks her dog, the same woman who slipped me Dad's garden tools the day after Greg and Mom left, saying she'd held on to them for safekeeping all these years. Tomorrow, I'll help Cam from work navigate his inheritance dispute with his brother. His gratitude when I offered feels uncomfortable. I'm not an expert, just someone who learned boundaries the hard way. But perhaps that's enough. I trace my fingers along the porch railing Dad built, feeling every whorl and grain of the wood. The house settles around me with familiar creaks and sighs as twilight deepens. Through the window, I can see Dad's photograph watching over the empty dining room, the echo of laughter still hanging in the air. Some houses are just buildings. This one is my inheritance, not just of property, but of who I am. I stand frozen in my parents' doorway, my portfolio case heavy in my trembling hands. The conversation inside halts as my father notices me, his eyes narrowing with that familiar mixture of disappointment and impatience. "Perfect timing, Rowena," Dad says, waving me in with the casual authority of a university department head. We were just discussing how Cressida's promotion to associate professor came 15 months ahead of schedule. The youngest in university history. His voice swells with pride as he gestures toward my twin sister, who sits primly at the dining table surrounded by congratulatory flowers. I set my portfolio down carefully, the leather case containing sketches for tomorrow's design studio interview. The table is set for a celebration dinner I wasn't told about until this morning. "That's wonderful, Cress," I say, trying to keep my voice steady. "Congratulations." My mother bustles in from the kitchen carrying a steaming casserole dish. When she thinks I'm not looking, she leans toward my father, her voice dropping to a whisper that still somehow reaches me. "At least we have one daughter we can be proud of." The words hit like a physical blow. I press my palms against my thighs to stop them from shaking. "Rowena," my father calls out as I try to slip toward the bathroom. "Perhaps seeing your sister's success will inspire you to reconsider this drawing phase. There's still time to apply for the economics graduate program, a respectable career like your sister's." My bedroom at home tells the whole story. During a visit last month, I noticed again how the space remains frozen in time, split perfectly down the middle. Cressida's half displays her academic awards on custom shelves Dad installed himself. My high school art competition certificates once hung on my side, but Mom removed them years ago to avoid clutter. The bare wall remains a silent testament to their priorities. Every Christmas follows the same script. Dad gathers the extended family in the living room for his annual tradition, reading aloud our report cards from elementary school through college. Cressida's straight A's in economics and mathematics earn approving nods. My A's in art and B's in economics prompt concerned glances and questions about applying myself. Last Christmas, Aunt Margaret asked if I was still doing those little drawings, while Uncle John praised Cressida's thesis publication. "I've made a decision," I announce quietly, returning to the dining room. The words feel foreign in my mouth, dangerous and thrilling. I've accepted an internship at Horizon Design Studio. The green bean casserole crashes onto the table as Mom's hands fly to her face. "But what about the economics program your father arranged? Do you know how many people would die for that opportunity?" Her eyes well with tears, the familiar guilt strategy that's worked countless times before. "I want to build my own path," I say, surprised by how steady my voice sounds. "Design is what I'm good at, what I love." "Cressida," my father interjects, turning away from me entirely. "Talk some sense into your sister. She listens to you." Just like that, I'm dismissed from my own life decision. The conversation continues around me, about me, without me. "Rowena, be reasonable," my mother adds. "Who will pay for your final semester? Your apartment lease? Your health insurance?" The threats aren't subtle. Everything I have exists at their mercy. Cressida reaches across the table, patting my hand with rehearsed sympathy. "Maybe you should try Dad's way first, Ro. You can always do the art thing later, as a hobby." In that moment, I see it clearly for the first time. I've never been Rowena to them. I've only ever been the other twin, Cressida's less successful reflection. The daughter they got stuck with in the 2-for-1 deal. I look at my portfolio case sitting by the door. Inside are the drawings that make me feel alive, the work that makes me feel like myself. For once, I don't apologize. Next morning, the sun filters through my mother's study curtains as I search for a missing tax form she promised to mail weeks ago. I slide open the bottom drawer of her desk, expecting the usual array of stationery and forgotten bills. What I find instead stops my breath. A thick envelope with my name printed in bold letters peeks from beneath a stack of Christmas cards. The return address reads, Rhode Island School of Design. The postmark dates back 3 years. My fingers tremble as I extract the envelope, already torn open. Inside, the words blur, then sharpen. We are pleased to offer you admission. Full scholarship. Studio space. Everything I had dreamed of while applying in secret during my sophomore year. My legs give way. I stumble backward, colliding with the bookshelf. A framed family photo crashes to the floor, glass splintering across the hardwood. In the picture, I stand slightly behind Cressida, my smile tight while hers radiates confidence. I scan the letter again, searching for any indication that my parents had tried to contact me about it. Nothing makes sense. 3 years ago, Mom had consoled me for weeks over my rejection from design school, suggesting that perhaps it was a sign to follow a more practical path. Dad had nodded along, mentioning how fortunate I was to have the economics department waiting. They hadn't just dismissed my dreams, they had actively buried them. I carefully refold the letter, slipping it into my pocket. The weight of it burns against my thigh, undeniable evidence that transforms vague suspicions into concrete betrayal. Later that morning, Sunday brunch stretches before me like a minefield. Crystal mimosa glasses catch the light while my stomach churns with knowledge I shouldn't possess. More quiche, Rowena? My mother asks, passing the serving dish before I can respond. Her pearl bracelet clinks against the china as she turns immediately to Cressida's fiancé, Professor James Whitley. James, tell us more about that department chair opening. I push eggs around my plate while they discuss university politics, my existence apparently forgotten until Cressida reaches over to pat my hand. You're so quiet today, Ro, she says, her voice honeyed with false concern. Still upset about the design studio interview? My father sets down his napkin. About that. He clears his throat. I took the liberty of calling the studio yesterday. The fork slips from my fingers, clattering against fine china. You did what? As a reference, he explains, as though this clarifies everything. I thought they should understand your history of, shall we say, flakiness, when it comes to commitment. Remember your piano lessons? Ballet? That photography phase? Those were childhood activities, I say, my voice barely audible. I was 12. I also mentioned you'll likely be entering the economics graduate program this fall, he continues, ignoring my protest. No sense in them investing in someone who won't follow through. Cressida's hand tightens around mine in what anyone watching would interpret as sisterly support. I feel her fingernails pressing small crescents into my skin. It's for the best, my mother adds, refilling James's coffee cup. Besides, I've been holding your mail while you've been so busy with finals. There's a placement packet from the economics department you should review. The stolen acceptance letter seems to pulse in my pocket. Holding my mail, my voice rises despite my effort to remain calm. For how long? She waves dismissively. Just important things, bills, school notices. A hesitation. Opportunities that might distract you. James leans forward. The economics track provides stability, Rowena. In my professional opinion, you should at least try your family's suggested path before rebelling. Creative fields are essentially glorified hobbies, financially speaking. Cressida nods. You've always followed me before, Ro. Remember when we were little and played school? You let me be teacher every time. Because you screamed when I didn't. I think but don't say. My father's tone grows sharper. About your final semester tuition. Your mother and I have been discussing whether continuing to fund this art experimentation is the best use of family resources. What does that mean? My hands clench into fists beneath the table. It means decisions have consequences, he replies. If you insist on pursuing this design nonsense, we may need to reconsider our financial support. My mother adds, the lease on your apartment is in our name, dear, and your car insurance, your health coverage. Each item falls like a hammer blow. These are adult responsibilities we've been handling for you. The threat hangs clear in the air. Conform or lose everything. A spark of doubt flickers through me. Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't have what it takes. Years of measured praise for Cressida and tempered expectations for me have worn deep grooves in my confidence. After brunch, I sit in my car, unable to start the engine. My phone buzzes with a text from an unfamiliar number. Rowena Carver? This is Diana Ling from Horizon Design Studio. I was impressed by your portfolio. Oddly, someone called claiming to be a reference but spoke mostly about economics. Would you have time to meet tomorrow? Your work shows remarkable potential. Rain begins tapping against the windshield, a gentle percussion that matches the pounding in my chest. I stare at the message, this small lifeline thrown from a stranger who sees value in what my family dismisses. As darkness gathers around my parked car, I wonder if breaking free means cutting all ties. Would asserting my independence require losing my family entirely, or was there a way to maintain those bonds while still honoring my own path? What would you do when the people who should support you the most become the biggest obstacles to your growth? The rain falls harder as I finally turn the key in the ignition, heading toward an answer I can't yet see. I stare at my phone as another voicemail notification appears. Aunt Gloria this time, the third relative to call today with concerns about my future. Rowena, sweetie, Cressida mentioned you're going through a difficult time. Her voice drips with manufactured sympathy. Don't throw away all your potential on a whim. Your father worked so hard to arrange that economics program. Think about what you're doing to your poor parents. I delete the message without finishing it. The pattern has become painfully clear over the past week. Cressida has been making the rounds, painting me as unstable and impulsive to every branch of our family tree. The result? A barrage of unwanted advice from relatives who've barely noticed me at family gatherings for years. My phone buzzes with a text from Mom. Meeting with Professor Winters tomorrow at 4. Dad arranged it. Don't be late. I stare at the message, heat rising in my chest. They've scheduled an appointment with the economics department advisor without even asking me. Another ambush disguised as help. The sky darkens outside my apartment window as thunder rumbles in the distance. Perfect weather for my mood. I grab my portfolio and head to my car, determined to drop off my latest sketches at the design studio before the storm hits. 20 minutes later, my ancient Honda makes a terrible grinding noise before shuddering to a complete stop. Steam rises from under the hood as rain begins to pound against the windshield in heavy sheets. I manage to coast into a small tire shop parking lot before the engine dies completely. Just perfect, I mutter, resting my forehead against the steering wheel. The rain intensifies, trapping me inside my dead car. My phone battery shows 12% as I search for a tow service I can afford. Every option costs more than I have in my checking account. I'm stranded, dependent on help I don't want to ask for. The passenger window suddenly darkens with a shadow. I jump, then see a man in coveralls holding an umbrella, concern on his face. I crack the window. Car trouble? He asks, raising his voice over the downpour. Engine died, I explain. Steam coming from under the hood. I'm Thayer, he says. I work here. Pop the hood and I'll take a look. I hesitate, calculating the potential cost against my dwindling resources. My parents' voice echoes in my head. This is why you need our support. You can't make it on your own. I'm not sure I can afford repairs right now, I admit. Let's worry about that after we figure out what's wrong, he says, offering me his umbrella. Use this to get inside the shop while I check things out. But you'll get soaked. He shrugs. It's just water. An hour later, Thayer explains the radiator hose burst, a relatively inexpensive fix. When he notices my portfolio case, he asks about it. I explain about my design work and the studio internship. That's impressive, he says, genuinely interested in a way my family never is. When I reach for my credit card to pay, he waves it away. We had the part already. Consider it professional courtesy. I can't accept that. Some things matter more than money, he says with a smile that reaches his eyes. Good luck with your designs. That unexpected kindness stays with me the next day as I walk into my parents' living room. Professor Winters sits on the couch, papers spread across the coffee table. Mom hovers with refreshments while Dad paces by the fireplace. Rowena, Dad says, as if summoning a wayward student to his office. Professor Winters has kindly adjusted his schedule to discuss your academic future. I wasn't aware I needed career counseling, I say,
remaining standing while everyone else sits. Your father expressed concerns about your recent decisions, Professor Winters says, consulting his notes. The economics graduate program is still accepting late applications with his recommendation. I've already accepted a design internship, I remind them. A design internship won't pay the bills, Dad counters. We just want what's best for you. The words land like a match on dry kindling. Years of silent compliance burst into flames. No, I say, my voice steady. You want what's easiest to explain to your colleagues. A daughter who followed the approved path rather than one who chose her own way. Mother gasps. Rowena. Professor Winters. I say, turning to the startled advisor. I apologize for my family's presumption in wasting your time. My career plans are set. I walk out, ignoring my father's demands to return. For the first time, I see clearly that I've been seeking approval that will never come on my own terms. The consequences arrive swiftly. Dad cancels my car insurance. Mom reminds me the lease on my apartment, technically in their name, expires in 60 days. But unexpected support appears. Thayer offers rides to my internship when my parents take my car keys. Unlike my family's interrogations, he asks questions about my designs, listening with genuine curiosity. What inspired this logo concept? He asks one morning, glancing at my sketches while waiting at a red light. I explain my thought process without the familiar apologetic preface. Without my family's dismissive gaze, words flow confidently about color theory and brand identity. Thayer nods, asks follow-up questions. He might not understand every design principle, but his interest is authentic. At night, I create spreadsheets mapping my path to independence. I calculate exact figures for rent deposits, insurance premiums, student loan payments. Each number represents a link in the chain binding me to my parents, each one I need to break. Then opportunity knocks. Miss Reeves, the design studio owner, calls with unexpected news. Your latest concepts for the Davidson account impressed everyone, she says. We'd like to offer you an advance on your first 3 projects. 2 weeks later, I walk into another family dinner. This time, I carry an envelope containing my Declaration of Independence. My hands no longer tremble. I smooth my skirt with damp palms as I stand outside my parents' colonial-style home. The engagement ring on my finger catches the porch light, sending tiny rainbows dancing across the door. Taking one last deep breath, I press the doorbell. My mother answers with her perfect hostess smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Rowena, right on time. She gestures me inside, her gaze flickering to my simple blue dress. Cressida brought a bottle of that wonderful Cabernet your father loves. Of course she did. I step into the familiar dining room where Dad and Cressida are already seated, wine glasses filled. The table gleams with Mom's good china and sterling silver, the set, reserved for impressing university colleagues and celebrating Cressida's achievements. Never mine. You mentioned you had an announcement, Dad says, not bothering with a greeting. Something so important it couldn't wait until after the department fundraiser next week. I take my usual seat, the one facing away from the window with the wobbly chair leg. Deliberately, I place both hands on the table, the small diamond on my left hand unmistakable. I wanted to let you know that Thayer and I are engaged. I maintain steady eye contact with my father, not allowing my voice to lift into a question. The wedding will be in October. The silence that follows feels like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. Mom's water glass freezes halfway to her lips. Dad's eyes narrow to calculating slits. Only Cressida speaks, her voice honeyed with false concern. Rowena, you've only known him briefly? Don't you think that's a bit hasty? We've known each other long enough to know what I want, I correct her. And no, I don't. Dad sets his wineglass down with such precision I can tell he's struggling to maintain control. This mechanic? Industrial welder, I interrupt. Fine, this welder. He spits the word like it's contaminated. What are his family connections, his prospects? Has he even been to college? My mother leans forward, voice dropping to that concerned whisper she uses when discussing neighborhood scandals. Your father is only thinking of your future, sweetheart. Is this really the type of man who can provide for you? I almost laugh. After years of comparing me to Cressida, they suddenly care about my future? Thayer owns his own business. He employs 3 people. And yes, he went to technical school. I cut a small bite of chicken, chewing slowly before continuing. But more importantly, he respects my work. He values what I create. And we don't? My father's voice rises. We've supported you your entire life. No, Dad, you've tolerated me. There's a difference. Cressida reaches across the table, her perfectly manicured hand landing on my wrist. Ro, be reasonable. Mom and Dad just want to make sure you're not rushing into something because of our disagreements. I gently remove her hand. I'm not seeking your approval. I'm informing you of my decision. My father's face flushes crimson. You'll have to choose, Rowena. This man or your family. We won't support this relationship financially, or otherwise. The ultimatum hangs in the air. For a moment, I hesitate. Would severing ties with my family, despite their controlling nature, leave a wound that could never heal? Or would staying connected mean forever compromising my authentic self? The doorbell interrupts my thoughts. That'll be Thayer, I say quietly. He's picking me up. Mom looks genuinely startled. You invited him here? Tonight? I nod, rising to answer the door. When I return with Thayer, the temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. He stands tall in clean jeans and a button-down shirt, his dark hair still damp from a shower after work. Dr. and Mrs. Carver, he says, extending his hand to my father, who reluctantly accepts it. Thank you for having me in your home. Mr. Knox. My father's voice could freeze water. Perhaps you could explain your intentions toward our daughter. Thayer's calm never wavers. I intend to build a life with her, sir. One where her talents are appreciated and her voice is heard. And what exactly do you bring to this partnership? My mother asks, emphasizing the word like it's distasteful. I restore classic cars on weekends. I run a small welding company that specializes in underwater repairs for the harbor. It's honest work. Thayer's voice remains steady. I can't offer Rowena country club memberships or summer homes, but I can promise she'll never have to hide her artwork or apologize for her dreams. My father stands abruptly. Rowena, if you leave with him tonight, don't expect us to bail you out when this falls apart. Your tuition, your apartment, your insurance, all of it stops. I understand. I reach for my purse, surprised by how little his threat affects me now. You can't be serious, my mother whispers, her carefully crafted composure cracking. For the first time, I see genuine fear in her eyes, fear of losing control. Where will you even live? We have a place, I answer simply. Cressida stares at me with an expression I've never seen before: uncertainty. For the first time, my perfect twin looks unsure of her perfect path. I turn to Thayer. I need to grab a few things from my old room. 10 minutes later, I descend the stairs with a small duffel bag containing my sketchbooks, my grandmother's quilt, and a handful of photographs. Everything that matters to me now fits in Thayer's truck. As we pull away from the house, my mother stands in the doorway, one hand pressed against her mouth. My father has already disappeared inside. Cressida watches from the window, her silhouette still and small behind the glass. You okay? Thayer asks softly as we turn onto the main road. I look at the rearview mirror, watching my childhood home shrink into the distance. I will be. A month later, I hear Cressida's knock before I see her through the peephole. 3 precise taps her childhood signal. My stomach tightens as I open the door to my studio apartment above Sweetwater Bakery, where the morning scent of cinnamon still lingers. Surprise, she says with a practiced smile, holding a cardboard box. Mom and Dad thought you might want these. I step back, allowing her inside the small space Thayer and I have made our own. His welding sketches hang beside my designs on a corkboard. Our mattress sits on the floor, but the sheets are clean and the windows let in streams of afternoon light. Cressida sets the box on our coffee tableau repurposed cable spool. They are salvaged and sanded smooth. She pulls out a faded photograph of us at age 8, matching summer dresses and gap-toothed smiles. Remember this? Her voice carries the false brightness I've come to recognize. Mom was organizing the attic and thought you might like to have some memories. I don't touch the photo. What are you really doing here, Cress? Her smile falters. Dad had some chest pains last week. The words land like stones. I wait for the guilt to crash over me, but instead I notice how she watches my reaction, measuring its effect. Nothing serious, she continues when I don't respond. Just stress. He misses you, Ro. They both do. Enough to apologize? She sighs, the long-suffering sound I've heard 1,000 times. If you would just come home, apologize for the scene you made. The scene I made? When they threatened to cut me off for making my own choice? Cressida's gaze travels around our modest apartment, lingering on the water stain in one corner of the ceiling. I'm worried about you, this place, and Thayer. You know how men like him operate, right? You're a carver. He sees dollar signs. My laugh startles us both. Is that what Dad told you to say? She has the decency to blush. I cross to the small desk in the corner and unlock the bottom drawer. Let me show you something. I spread our financial records across the table. A neatly organized spreadsheet of Thayer's growing underwater welding business, my design commissions, our savings account balance, and the down payment fund for our future home. I manage our finances, I explain, watching her scan the numbers with widening eyes. Thayer makes triple what I do right now with his dive certifications, but we split expenses evenly. The business account is joint, everything transparent. Her finger hovers over the home savings column. You've saved this much? When you're not trying to impress economics professors with designer clothes, it's amazing what you can put aside. I close the folder. I've never been happier or more certain of my worth than since I stopped measuring it by our parents' yardstick. Cressida leaves without the photo box, her mission unsuccessful. 3 years pass in a blur of growth and hard work. The university faculty fundraiser glitters with crystal and academic prestige. I wouldn't be here if Cressida hadn't insisted, claiming it was time to mend fences. Thayer promised to meet me after his emergency dive job. I stand alone near a sculpture display when I hear my sister's laugh, pitched to Carrie. Yes, my twin still fancies herself an artist, she tells a circle of colleagues, her voice honeyed with false concern. Living in that tiny apartment, still dependent on our parents' generosity, we keep hoping she'll grow out of this phase. I step forward, ready to correct her, when the crowd shifts. Thayer appears in the entrance, still in his work clothes clean but worn jeans, boots, and a button-down shirt with the diving company logo. His hands bear the calluses of honest work, his shoulders straight with quiet confidence. Cressida's smug smile falters as he walks directly to Dean Wallace. Mr. Knox, the dean says warmly, shaking Thayer's hand. We weren't expecting you this evening. Wouldn't miss it, Thayer replies, reaching into his jacket. He hands the dean an envelope. The donation we discussed for the expanded arts program. The dean opens it, his eyebrows rising. $25,000. Your continued generosity is remarkable. The room quiets. Cressida's mouth opens slightly. My wife taught me that true wealth isn't what you have, Thayer says, finding me in the crowd with his eyes, but what you build and share. The dean raises his glass. To the Knoxes, whose support has been instrumental in our new digital design lab. I join Thayer, sliding my hand into his as whispers ripple through the gathering. A professor I don't recognize leans toward his colleague. Isn't that Dr. Carver's daughter? The one who... Yes, the other replies. Did you hear about the investigation? Academic fraud allegations, something about research falsification. My father isn't here tonight. Neither is my mother. I catch Cressida's eyes across the room. For a moment, I see something I've never witnessed before fear. The golden child, suddenly standing alone as her admirers drift away. Thayer squeezes my hand. Ready to go home? I nod, turning toward the exit. The question follows us. When my parents inevitably reach out for help with the scandal, what will I do? The old Rowena would have rushed to their rescue, desperate for approval. But as Thayer and I walk out under the night sky, I realize I'm not that person anymore. Behind us, Cressida stands abandoned, finally experiencing what I felt all those years, the weight of being truly alone. 3 years later, the sunlight streams through the bay windows of our townhouse, catching the edges of my framed artwork that lines the hallway. No longer hidden in portfolios or tucked away in drawers, my designs breathe life into every corner of this space Thayer and I now call home. I run my fingers along the smooth surface of my drafting table, admiring the three-dimensional model of an eco-friendly community center that won me my first major contract last month. The spare bedroom has transformed into my sanctuary walls, painted the warm amber I always wanted, but was never allowed in my childhood home. Sketches and blueprints cover the corkboards, evidence of projects completed and dreams still taking shape. In the corner sits a small desk where Adrian, my first design apprentice, works 3 afternoons a week. Your perspective on sustainable materials changed how I approach every project, she told me yesterday, her eyes bright with the same passion I once doubted in myself. The phone rings, interrupting my thoughts. Thayer answers in the kitchen, his voice dropping to a serious tone that immediately draws my attention. "Ro," he calls, covering the receiver. "Your parents are at the front gate. Security wants to know if they should be allowed in." 3 years ago, those words would have sent me spiraling into anxiety, scrambling to hide evidence of my authentic self before their arrival. Today, I feel only a calm resolve settling over me like a familiar blanket. "Tell them I'll meet them at the gate," I answer, my voice steady. I catch my reflection in the hallway mirror, shoulders straight, eyes clear. The daughter who once trembled at her father's disapproving glance is gone. In her place stands a woman who knows her worth isn't measured by academic accolades or family approval. The walk to the community entrance takes exactly 4 minutes. With each step, memories surface: Christmas report card readings, hidden acceptance letters, financial ultimatums then fade away, losing their power to wound. Thayer follows a few paces behind, close enough to offer support but far enough to make it clear this is my conversation to lead. His quiet strength reminds me daily of what partnership truly means. "Marlene's making your favorite tea," he says softly. "It'll be waiting when you're done." The thought of my mother-in-law with her warm hugs and genuine interest in my designs brings a smile to my face. She'd rearranged her entire sewing room to create a display wall for my early sketches, proudly showing them to everyone who visited. My parents stand awkwardly at the gate, looking smaller somehow. Dad's shoulders sag beneath his once imposing tweed jacket. Mom clutches her handbag with white knuckles. The newspaper headlines about Dad's academic fraud investigation and subsequent university dismissal flash through my mind. "Rowena," Dad begins, using my full name as always. "We need to talk about family responsibility during difficult times." I notice the worn edges of their suitcases. The foreclosure notice must have finally come through. "We only need a place to stay until things settle," Mom adds, her eyes darting to the homes visible beyond the gate. "Just for a little while." My hand moves instinctively to my abdomen, still flat but harboring the 8-week secret Thayer and I had celebrated just last night. On my design table sit the preliminary sketches for the nurseria room filled with possibility and unconditional love. "I'm sorry," I say, the words genuine but firm. "That won't be possible." Their faces crumple with disbelief, the same expression they wore when I first refused to follow their predetermined path. The difference is that now their disappointment holds no power over me. I turn back toward home with Thayer's hand in mine, my voice finally and completely my own. Some people inherit love and support, while others must fight to create it for themselves. As I closed the door on my past to protect my future, I wondered, at what point do we owe more to the family we choose than the family we're born into? Would you have offered help to those who once abandoned you, or protected the peace you'd fought so hard to build?